How would you like to fix your leaky Delta faucet for free, or at least a few bucks, and save yourself hundreds in the process? Here is a Delta single handle faucet that was installed about 8 years ago, and as you can see, it's got a pretty bad leak and won't shut off. Now, this may not look like a ton of water, but in a 24-hour period, you're looking at 20 to 30 gallons of water going down this drain. I was super impressed with Delta. As I called their customer service line, I didn't have a receipt that I could show them or send to them. They basically walked through some questions of where I bought it, when I bought it, and they were able to narrow it down to the design that they were using at that time. And they sent out the replacement parts for free. It took about a week to get them, but the customer service was fantastic to deal with. For this job, you're going to need at minimum a 1/8 inch Allen wrench to get the shower handle off, and you may need some pliers to help with the disassembly. I'll put links in the description below for these tools. Here is what they sent me: a couple of replacement springs and rubber seals, as well as detailed instructions of how to install them. The first thing you need to do is shut off the water. Now, the shut-off valves could be located behind a panel on the other side of your faucet, or they could be in a crawl space or basement below the bathroom, or it's possible you need to shut off the main line to the house, which will shut off all your water in your home until you get this job done. Now, there is a risk in shutting off the shut-off valves in your house that are connected directly to this faucet, and that is they probably haven't moved in a long, long time. And that, I find in my experience, is when they start leaking. And so this job may turn into a second job of replacing those valves, and you'd have to go out and shut off your water, your main line on the outside or in your basement. That's why I decided just to skip shutting off the valves by my faucet and just turn off the main line right here. Now that the water's off, the first step is to remove this handle. And so we can just turn it on. As you can see in here, there is a Allen head set screw in there that you'll need to take loose. Now, this set screw uses an 1/8 inch size Allen wrench, and you could use a 3mm, but 1/8 inch is a little bit bigger, and so a 3mm, you're at risk of rounding off the set screw if it's over tightened. Once you loosen that set screw a couple turns, it should pull right off. Next, the instructions say you need to unscrew and remove the bonnet, but you need to get rid of this trim piece first so that you can get to the bonnet itself. And that actually unscrews fairly easily. After that, it's just a matter of pulling this stem straight out to remove it. Now, be forewarned, there is a rubber O-ring in here that's holding it. That's all that's holding it in place, but it is tight. So especially like here, we have hard water. That could be part of the problem, or maybe it didn't have any type of lubricant on it, but it's stuck pretty good. You want to be careful, especially if you decide to put something behind here to pry, that you don't break this. Otherwise, you're going to have to replace the whole thing. I was able to get it out, but it took a pair of vice grips connected to the stem here, because you don't want to get this torn up. And so you get a good grip on it. And I just had to pull really hard. So I'm going to put a little bit of grease on this O-ring before I reassemble this unit. This is where the instructions become a little bit worthless, because it just tells you to remove the seal and the spring out of the seat. But as you can see here, that's not really apparent. But I did discover if you twist this, it pops apart. Okay, so there, if you look at the new rubber seal, you can see those two look the same. This is nice and soft. Let's pop this one out, see what's behind it. And it is not nearly as nice and soft. And there's the old spring. So we'll pop this out. And keep in mind, look at the orientation of the spring. When I popped that out, the large part was sitting down in the bottom, the small part was towards the seal. And so when you put the new ones in, you want to do the same thing. Have the large seat down in the bottom and the small part of the spring up against the rubber seal. So we'll just put those back in like that. The new rubber seal pops right in. New spring and new rubber seal. Now, they do recommend that if you have really hard water, which we do, that you wipe that out to remove any kind of buildup. And so next, before reassembling this, I'm going to soak this in some vinegar solution to remove any kind of buildup that's on this plate. You can see it has some kind of residue on it, and that will help remove any kind of mineral deposit on there that might keep it from sealing good. Okay, after about 10 minutes, I wiped it out. It looks a little bit better, and then we'll go ahead and reassemble this. Okay, quick. Last thing before putting this back in, I added some petroleum jelly to it, and that'll just help it come apart easier next time. Now, this is where you make the adjustment to the water temperature. First, you pop this washer, this piece off right here, and then you should be able to see it here. It says colder, and on this side it says hotter. And so if your shower is too hot, you'll want to adjust this to the colder side. You'll want to turn it this way. If it's too cold and you want it hotter, you adjust it that way. And my suggestion is that you take it a little bit at a time. Don't go extreme, because you may end up scalding yourself or freezing yourself. And so the factory setting should be somewhere right in here. And then you can make your small adjustments as needed. Then once that's set, then you go ahead and reassemble. Now, another reason this was hard coming out was, I don't know if you can see this very well, there's some calcium buildup from the hard water on both sides of this. And that calcium builds up, lines up with this right here on both sides. So I put some vinegar on a wet rag, and I'm going to wipe down this unit and inside here too. Okay, now that that is cleaned up, we're going to want to put this back in. Now, if you look inside, you can see where these two pieces slip into, so you'll want to orient this correctly, and also remember that this little tab was on the left when we took it apart. So we just slip it back in there. And then these little notches also should line up. That was pretty tight, so I went ahead and added some petroleum jelly on the little seals on the end too. So that should help it go in. There. Next, we'll put this ring back on. Nice and tight. And actually now I'm going to turn the water on and test it before I assemble any more. Okay, the water's back on, so we'll just put the handle back here. Not seeing any leaks, we'll turn it on. Shut it off. Perfect, good as new. So now all you need to do is to go ahead and slip this piece back on, put the handle on, and then use the set screw to tighten this up, and then you're done. You just saved yourself a few $100.